Okay, so let's start with economic development. So when we are talking about economic development, we are talking about what policies are adopted by the government mainly to see to it that our economic growth becomes steady, it becomes better, and how can we sustain ourselves for a longer time? How do we become independent economically as well? So when we are going to study about economic development, we are going to concentrate on 6 main things. Okay, so the first one over here is mixed economy. So first we'll just state all of them and then we will be um, doing in detail about all of them. So first is mixed economy. After that we have our 5-year plans, followed by nationalization of banks. Okay, then we have this famous known as the 20-point program. Mill worker strike, a very, very important event, especially in the city of Bombay. So we will look at all of these in today's class. And the last is the new economic policy. Now, the new economic policy is something like what you have done in the year okay, this was in the year 1991. So first we are going to start with the with the mixed economy. So what do we mean by a mixed economy is that normally whenever we are talking about any economy, it's mainly divided into two, that is your public sector and the private sector. So these are the two main sectors whenever we talk about any economy of any country. Public sector is the sector that is under the holding of the government, which is taken care of by the government. So public sector is government oriented, owned by the government, and its main goal is welfare maximization, welfare of the people. So now what happens is there are many things like day-to-day needs like transport, water, etc., which have to be affordable to the entire population. And that is why all these are controlled by the government so that they can be distributed to the people or given to the people at affordable prices. Next, we refer to the private sector. Now, the private sector is owned by individuals and its only goal is profit maximization. So these are personally owned industries like your Ambanis, your Birlas. Only their goal is only profit maximization. They do not care if what they are selling is expensive or not. So these are the two main sectors that we talk about, public and private. Now, one thing that we need to know over here is when we are talking about the public, it is also can be substituted by the word communism, and private industry can be substituted by the word capitalism. Communism is something that you have read about in the Russian Revolution, which means that all the major holdings of the industry or the economic part of the country is owned by the public and everybody is given equal status. That is communism. And capitalism is something where everyone is investing, private sector is investing, individuals are investing into their companies, they're making huge factories, making a lot of profit, and yes, they are exploiting the workers to gain maximum output from them and hence increase their profits. So this is the difference between public and private, can be substituted with communist type of economy and capitalist type of economy. So these are the two types of economy. Now, what we refer by mixed economy is a path between this, it's a middle path between these two. This is known as a mixed economy, wherein neither everything is controlled by the public sector nor by the private sector. There is an equal balance of both the sectors. So that is a mixed economy where, all the undertakings that we feel have to be subsidized or made available to the majority of the people at one time will be under the public sector, and some other industries will be under the private sector. So now when we became independent, to undo with this dilemma of what to accept, what not to accept, which route to choose economically, what would be better for us, the Indian government went for something called the mixed economy. So the mixed economy is like a path between the public and the private. We are neither 100% public nor 100% private. So here in the mixed economy, when we adopted the mixed economy, we had some things under the public undertaking that is controlled by the government, managed by the government. Some examples of this is SAIL, Steel Authorities of India Limited, BHEL, Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited. We have HPCL, ONGC, many more examples like this. After that, we have the private sector undertaking. As we all know, these are owned by private individuals, but though they are owned by private individuals, they still have to follow the rules and the norms that have been set by the government. Now this does not make them a public enterprise. They are yet a private enterprise, but this does not mean that they do or work as per their whims and fancies. They need to be supervised by the government. They need to follow all the rules that our government has set. Examples of this can be Reliance Industries Limited, Tata or Tata Consultancy Services, Hindustan Lever Limited, Wipro, many examples when it comes to the private sector. Last, we have something called the joint sector. Okay. Now, what is the joint sector? It's a mixture of both public and private. Now, here we have the joint sector are owned by private industrialists and managed by the government, or managed by private industrialists and owned by the government. So it's like a mixture of the two. It is half public, half private. Now depends on how they have worked. Examples of joint sector can be Cochin refineries, Madras refineries. So these are some of the examples that we have, or Madras fertilizers. So here the investment in the joint sector, the investment and the profits are shared both by the public as well as the private. So this is the mixed economy. Public plus private plus joint all together. India opted for the mixed economy. Now why did we go in for a mixed economy? Because we could not have all industries public. Now, why could we not have all our industries are public industries? Is mainly because the government cannot always readily invest so much in any industry, whereas private individuals can easily invest in the industries. They have a lot of investment. The government may or may not always have that investment, to start up some new thing. So that is why we have public as well as private, and both are doing equally well, both are equally important. There are many reasons why we opted for a mixed economy, because we needed profit, we needed planning, we also needed the rate to be affordable. So there were many things that we were looking at. There are some industries like railways, education, waterways, defense, which require a lot of capital, but they do not give returns very easily and very quickly. And that is the reason the private industrialists or the private sector is not very interested in these industries. And so the public had to take them up. Now, finally, India adopted the mixed economy, and after that, we started having the 5-year plans, which we are going to look at next. And when all of this came together, it ensured a smooth economic functioning. It gave us some economic stability, though it took us a lot of time to become economically stable, and a lot of goof ups did happen, in between. But still, the 5-year plans plus the mixed economy, they all ensured a smooth functioning of our economy. Slowly and steadily, we also became open to MNCs, etc. And then obviously we are where we are today. So this is it when it comes to the mixed economy. Okay, just let's erase this. Okay, so now we are going to our next topic, that is the 5-year plans. We have had many 5-year plans. Each 5-year plan focuses on something that's really important. Now, it's really important that you, when you are reading this chapter, you read your 5-year plans very well, because it gets really confusing when you get certain options from here. Now, what do we mean by 5-year plans? Whenever you're doing anything, for example, say you are, you know, you are only studying for your exams, you still need to plan what you are going to be up to, what you are going to do. So you're still going to need to plan of how to study, when you're going to study what topic, how long are you going to take to complete that topic. So there are a lot of things when it comes to planning gets really important in our day to day life. So imagine how important planning would be when we are talking about the economy of a country as huge as India. Okay. So 5-year plans became really important. We were a colony of the Britishers. They had completely drained us, drained our wealth, and we had a lot of problems. There was widespread poverty. People had no employment, high rates of unemployment. Population was continuously growing. So, which means that the population was too high, unemployment was too high, and so the standard of living was very low. Agriculture industries were very backward. We did not have new technology. We were not able to keep up with the foreign countries and their way of planning. So finally, we realized that planning became very, very important. So then the government started planning, and the first step that they took for 5-year plans, the first step that we took was setting up of the planning commission, which we had done in the chapter previously. So if you remember, I had said that the prime minister of our country is the ex officio chairman of the planning commission, and so we had Nehru as the first chairman of the planning commission, which was started in the year 1950. Now the main goal of this planning commission was obviously to plan India's economy. How do we bring about a balance in our economy? Whether we should give more importance to industries or agriculture, or give equal importance to both. How should we uphold democratic ideals when it comes to economy as well? How would everybody have a say in this? So planning became really important, and we came up with 5-year plans. Now the logic of 5-year plans is very simple. One, all our governments are elected for a period of 5 years, and so the economic plans are also for 5 years. So one government completes their plan and then goes away. That is how the thinking basically is. Apart from that, if we have a long plan of what they wish to do, what the government wishes to do, what it wishes to achieve over a period of 5 years, can be very peacefully achieved with planning. Okay, so planning becomes really, really important. Now, main goals. What are the main goals when it comes to economic planning? One, we want to increase our national income. We want to bring about rapid industrialization. We want to focus on the basic industries. So if our basic industries become really strong, then all the industries can take care of themselves. Another important goal for planning is that we wanted agriculture to become self-sufficient. We wanted that we should not depend on basic food grains like wheat, rice, maize, jowar, bajra, and all of that on any outside countries. We should not import food grains at least. So if we do not import food grains, it means we have more money to import the things that are more important and not easily available in our country, and which we would require for development in the industries, like say some minerals, etc., or some technology which we can use in the cotton industry, in the iron and steel industry. So here we can in fact concentrate more over here in these areas. So we wanted agriculture, we wanted food grain self-sufficiency. That became of utmost importance when it came to the 5-year plans. After that, it's not only about increasing the output of industry and agriculture, but planning is also about reducing the unemployment rate. How do we reduce the unemployment rate? How do we create more employment opportunities? What should be done? Again, how should we give equal employment or equal wages to men and women? So all these things come under planning. um, for this, the government will also pass some acts like the Equal Wages Act, etc. Then it is how do we maintain the price of commodities? We cannot have any commodity being very expensive all of a sudden, or its price going down all of a sudden. We have to keep it in mind. So how do we maintain the prices? How do we think about family planning? So if the size of the family is restricted, automatically the unemployment rate will come down. People will be able to afford better. It's easy to handle a smaller population. And then once this is achieved, then the standard of living can improve. More and more people can get employment and poverty will come down. How do we develop social services? How do we make the economy self-sufficient overall? So these are some of the goals of the Planning Commission. So now we are going to look at first, second, third. We are going to look at the 9 main 5-year plans. Now each of them focuses on one particular thing. Now the first 5-year plan is from the year 1951 to 1956. Now here, the first 5-year plan, we concentrated mainly on agriculture. And if you're concentrating on agriculture, we are obviously controlling irrigation, flood control. We are also concentrating on rural industries, heavy industries like our iron and steel industry or the mineral industry. How do we ensure better transport and communication? So if our industries, we want our industries and agriculture, that is primary and secondary sector, to do well, we need to have a very strong support of the tertiary sector, which is your transport, communication, banking, etc., all of that. So stress was also laid mainly over here on the primary and the tertiary sector. After that, we move on to the second 5-year plan. Here, here we concentrated mainly on industrialization. There were many iron and steel plants or industries at Durgapur, Bhilai, Rourkela were set up. Chemical fertilizers plants were set up at Sindri. Rail engine factory at Chitranjan. Factory of railway bogies at Perambur. Shipbuilding factory at Vishakhapatnam. And other heavy industries were set up in the public sector. So remember, they were set up in the public sector, but we were concentrating mainly on industries. We also concentrated a lot on the building of dams so that water could be made available for irrigation. And all of this steadily led to the rise of national income. Because see, what is happening is when we are establishing so many industries, we are also increasing the employment opportunities. Now, when the employment opportunities go up, poverty will come down because people find a stable employment. And so poverty comes down. They start educating their children, and everything starts being well. So everything starts to become better, a little better than it was before. So our kids are now getting education, more industries are being set up, poverty is coming down, employment rates are going higher. So everything was good at this time. Not perfect, but though compared to the earlier years, we had begun to do better during the second 5-year plan. Now, moving on to the third 5-year plan. Now, here finally we realized that in the first 5-year plan, we concentrated mainly on agriculture. The second 5-year plan, we concentrated mainly on industries. Now, in the third 5-year plan, our main aim was to find a balance between industry and agriculture. And in this way, by balancing both, we could increase our national income. We would concentrate more on the development of our heavy industries. We would develop our transport, and all this in turn would help us to have better employment rates and reduction in the poverty rates. Now, what happened is by the time the third 5-year plan is over, we are into the year 1966, which was a period of great political difficulty for our country. 1962, we had the Indo-China War, then we had the war with Pakistan. And so now the main goal of the government had shifted to, safeguarding our country. It had shifted to the defense of our country rather than the economic development of our country. So at this time, instead of having another 5-year plan, we had 3 1-year plans from 1966 to 1969. Why did we have these 1-year plans? Because we did not know how long the wars would last. We were spending more on our defense, and nobody, not even our leaders, exactly knew, how much more they would have had to spend on defense. So rather than having a very long 5-year plan, it's better to have a short-term plan in this case, which were 1-year plans. So at this time, we had 3 1-year plans, which did not achieve a lot actually. And also because a majority of our focus and attention was on the Indian defense rather than the Indian economy. So between the third and the fourth 5-year plans, we have 3 1-year plans. Now this again was hello. Dhruv, yes, 5-year plans were made after 2002. They are continuously made. It's a continuous process. Like a new government comes and they have a new economic plan. So 5-year plans are still there. Okay. Now we are going to the fourth 5-year plan. Now this is from the year 1969 to 1974. Okay. Here again, we started with the 5-year plans because we realized 1-year plans were not working. And again, the wars were over and we were slightly stable. So here the main focus was on making India self-reliant. That means whether it is agriculture, whether it is small-scale industry, large-scale industry, whether it is the tertiary sector, in every possible way and aspect, we wanted to make India self-independent and self-reliant. For this, for making ourselves self-reliant, we had to look at some basic things. That is, develop the basic industries, increase the economic development, means work faster. That could also mean having more workforce, and having a socialistic pattern of society. Now when I'm saying socialistic pattern of society, we mean the inclination gets more towards the communist type of an economy, where many things are controlled by the government, and so everybody has a more equal share over here. At this time, 14 major banks were nationalized in the country, Now that is our next topic over here, that is nationalization of banks. So we will be looking at this a little shortly. Okay. So yes, nationalization of banks mainly happened in the fourth five-year plan is what we have to remember. But however, the fourth five-year plan was not very successful because we had the Bangladeshi war and then we had a lot of refugees coming into our country, and the government had to give a hike in the salaries of the railway servants or the government employees. So because of this, the treasury, the Indian treasury, you know, faced a setback at this time. They did not save as much as they think they could, and petrol prices were on the rise. So, in the international market, so all of this affected the fourth five-year plan. So in all, fourth five-year plan, not so good. Then we move to the fifth five-year plan, that's 1974 to 1979. Again, here the emphasis was on becoming self-sufficient, self-reliant by removing poverty. It had many objectives like increasing the national income, that also means increasing the GDP, making more employment available, increasing employment opportunities, spread of education, spread of uh, good food and health, which would lead to, and better medical facilities, which would lead to a better health for our population. So a healthy population is an asset, a healthy population is a good population, so they can work more. And we need a good, strong, and a healthy workforce for the economy to do better. This also meant supplying electricity and increasing communication networks in our country, making more welfare schemes, social welfare schemes for the people, increasing agricultural development, having more basic industries, etc., etc. And this, the fifth five-year plan, was also the plan when we launched the PDS. That is, you guys would have done this in the ninth standard, PDS. That is your public distribution system. So the public distribution system is a supply of food grains which the people can sell at MSP. That is, all the farmers can sell their supplies to their vendors at MSP. That is the minimum support price, which is the minimum price that they would get for their agricultural output that they have. So the farmers would not be cheated, and this would make the entire agricultural sector more better, more efficient, and more structured. And this also meant, the PDS also meant that the government was supporting the agriculture in many ways, or the agricultural sector in many ways. So fifth five-year plan, the main thing you need to remember is PDS started at this time. Now, obviously, because the fifth five-year plan has so many goals, it had n number of goals, not all of them could be achieved. Employment, increasing the employment opportunities became very difficult. And because this became difficult, poverty alleviation also became very difficult. Now, then came the elections. In the 1977 elections, Congress was defeated, and after that, we had the Janata Party coming to power, and we have seen in our previous chapters that how unstable the non-Congress governments were. So again, they started the rolling plan. The rolling plan was again just like the one-year plans, but they did not work, and the government was very unstable. So again, there were the elections, and the Congress Party again came to power, which scrapped, closed the rolling plans, and they again came with the five-year plans. So after that, we go to the sixth five-year plan. Now again, see, poverty alleviation and employment generation has been the goal of every basic plan. It still is a plan, it still is a part of our plan today. So here, again, in the sixth five-year plan, the government said that we need to concentrate on the population because our population is on a tremendous rise. It's on an all-time high, and it becomes, with the economic condition that we are in, it becomes really difficult for us to support such a population. So population control became very important at this time, And some programs that were implemented during this time were the Integrated Rural Development Program, Rural Landless Employment Guarantee Program, National Rural Employment Program, and the Salem Steel Plant was set up at this time. So after this, we go to the 7th 5-year plan. Again, objectives remain the same. But at this time, from the 7th 5-year plan onwards, we start concentrating more on modernization. We start concentrating more on social justice, on improving the techniques of production, which means that now we have started or we are thinking of importing technology, good technology, so that we can remove all the obsolete and the outdated technology that we use in the cotton industry, that we use in the sugar industries, or that we use in the heavy industries. So now we think of replacing them with better machinery. As we would have better machinery, obviously our output would become more. When our output becomes more, we would have more GDP. So as the GDP increases, obviously economy gets better, poverty gets better, employment rates go high. So it's like a chain, which is linked to each other. Many other plans were also started from this program, from this plan. But the most important part of the 7th 5-year plan was that it concentrated a lot on employment. Then moving on to the 8th 5-year plan. The 8th 5-year plan now gave a lot of importance to the private sector, because as we will go to this, the new economic policy that started in the year 1991, and the 8th 5-year plan falls into this time period, which is 1992 to 1997. So here again, our 5-year plans are a little different than what they were before. So here we are concentrating more on the private sector, which means that now we are allowing MNCs to come up into our country, and which would increase the employment opportunities, and the whole that chain would again follow. Again, here in the 8th 5-year plan, emphasis was on controlling the population, family planning, and main goal was to remove the illiteracy. And the private sector grew a lot during this time, during the 8th 5-year plan. So because of liberalization, globalization, and privatization, which we will look at towards the end of the chapter. The 9th 5-year plan, again, we shifted the focus from industry to agriculture, but we also concentrated a lot on infrastructure at this time, because we have liberalized our economy, we have privatized our economy, we have many MNCs coming into our country, and so for this, it was important that we have a good and a strong infrastructure so that we can attract all the MNCs into our country. So these are some of the 5-year plans that we looked at. Obviously, till today, we are having 5-year plans. And they are successfully going on. Every 5-year plan, we try to concentrate on something. But basically, the cycle that you all will observe in the 5-year plans is the same. Either we are concentrating on agriculture or industry, or both, or we are concentrating on any one sector, and then the main goal that we have is increasing employment opportunities and reducing poverty. So ultimately, that is what all the 5-year plans sum up to.
Ma'am, can I ask a doubt?
Yes.
Ma'am, the fifth 5-year plan is from 1974 to 1979, but the rolling plan came in between.
Yes, the rolling plans came in between. That's after the 1977. So though that was constant, but because the Congress government lost, do you remember the last chapter we had done, that the government was very unstable, and elections were not a proper cycle of 5 years at that time. So when a new government came up, they cannot completely outdo the previous 5-year plan. कि अब हमें ये बंद कर देना है. They cannot do that. But if they want to concentrate on some other thing, for those things they started with the rolling plans. So at this time, both the plans were operational, but more emphasis was laid on the plans of the new government. Is it fine? Any other doubt?
No, ma'am. Ma'am, and there is a gap between 1992 and in 7th 5-year plan and 8th 5-year plan. by 2 years.
Yeah, there's a gap of 2 years because at that time our economy had gone really bad. We will just do it a slightly later in the chapter. Okay. India had no money to sustain itself. The time was really very bad. We will do it when we come to the new economic policy. So at that time, whether we have a 5-year plan or we don't have a plan, it didn't make any sense. All right. So many questions by the end of the chapter would become clear to you. All right. So let us now move on. Yes, you will be getting the notes of all these chapters. All right. So now moving on to the nationalization of banks. Very, very important part of this chapter. Okay. What we mean by nationalization of banks is that we are making banks, or we are telling the banks to get under the control of the government. Now at some time what happens is nationalization of banks happened in the year 1969. Many banks were brought under the control of the government, mainly to finance India's growing financial needs. 1969, we were trying to sustain ourselves. Everything was becoming a little difficult. So, the government thought of nationalizing the banks. With this, India as a government, our government could easily borrow money from these banks, and it could think about the development of our country. Now, nationalization of banks happened on July 19th, 1969. And so from that day, this day is also known as the Bank Nationalization Day. Even today, it is celebrated as Bank Nationalization Day. Though we do not know about it very often, but yes. July 19th, 1969, celebrated as Nationalization Day. Now, apart from our government wanting to finance India's needs, there were many reasons for the nationalization of banks. First, let us look at the first main reason. There are 6 main reasons that we are going to talk about. The first reason for nationalization of banks is social welfare. Now see, our sectors such as the agricultural sector, the rural industries, cottage industries, small scale industries, village industries, all these were in the need of funds. They needed a lot of funds for their expansion and to develop the economy further. So to see to it that socially we are able to reach all the levels of our country, banks were nationalized for this reason. Second is controlling private monopolies. Now, what do you mean by the word monopoly? It is something over which only you have control, something that only you can manipulate. Okay. So, second is controlling private monopoly. Now, what happened is that if the banks were private, they were not giving credit, which means loans, to many people who actually needed these loans. So if the banks were nationalized and the banks came under the control of the government, then many people could get loans easily, many people could get credit easily. And with this credit, they would start their work, and ultimately it would lead to the economic development of our country. Okay. So with nationalization of banks, the private banks could, no longer dominate the scene of whom they were providing loans to, and then the government would handle these things well. Next is expansion of banking. Okay. Now, it was very important at this point of time to spread banking across the country, or to spread awareness about what a bank does and how important a bank is. What are the advantages of having a bank around you? and what are the advantages of being associated with a bank or having your account into the bank, and the endless possibilities that banks would offer economically to you, it became very important to spread this habit of banking to the entire country, across the entire country. And this could only be done by opening new banks or new branches of banks in the unbanked areas. By unbanked areas we mean the small villages or towns or talukas, districts, etc. So as banks spread everywhere till the lowest sections of our society, like the Grameen banks, etc., the rural banks, that was our goal. So we wanted everybody to develop this habit of banking. Next is reducing regional imbalance. Here by regional imbalance, what regions we are referring to? Here we are referring to urban and the rural regions. Okay. Now we know that there is a great urban-rural divide. Banks are more easily found in the urban areas than in rural areas. And now we wanted the rural area people also to use the banks. So by having banks in the rural areas as well, the regional imbalance could go down, which means that we are also aiming for equality of regions or regional balance. Now, the fifth point is priority sector lending. By lending, we mean credit or loan. Now, what do we mean by priority sector lending? Lending means giving loans that become very important for the agricultural sector. Many farmers were in dire need of loans because we had bad famines in the years 1966, 1967, 68. So at this time, agricultural farmers were in need of loans. Either they wanted to buy seeds or tractors or anything that was required in agriculture, and for this they needed loans. So if we would have banks in all these rural areas also, then everybody could have access to loans, and then our agricultural sector would start booming again. The last important point that we are looking at is developing banking habits. Now, this point number 6 is somewhat same to our point number 3, that is expansion of banking and developing banking habits. What we mean by developing banking habits is that 70% of our population is still in the rural areas, and so it became important for all the people to have access to these banks. So they could start getting used to these banks, etc. So developing banking habits and expansion of banking refers to the same thing, basically expanding banking into the rural areas and developing banking habits among the people in the rural areas. So this was the nationalization of banks. Now, at first 14 banks were sorry, at first 14 banks were nationalized. These were the Allahabad Bank, Bank of Baroda, Bank of India, Bank of Maharashtra, Canara Bank, Central Bank of India, Dena Bank, Indian Bank, Indian Overseas Bank, Punjab National Bank, Syndicate Bank, United Commercial Bank, Union Bank of India, United Bank of India. These were the 14 main banks that were nationalized in the year 1969. After that, in the year 1980, we had 6 more banks which were nationalized. These are the Andhra Bank, the Corporate Bank, Oriental Bank of India, Punjab and Sindh Bank, Vijaya Bank, and the New Bank of India. So totally today we have 20 nationalized banks in our country. Now that we are talking about the nationalization of banks, there's one really important and an interesting fact that we need to talk about. Okay. Okay, just let 1 second. Let's just do away with this. Okay. I'm sure you all must have heard about the SBI, that is the State Bank of India.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. How did this come into place? Now, the SBI, that is the, sorry for the S. All right, the State Bank of India is the largest and the oldest bank which is still in existence. Very interesting fact about this bank. Largest and oldest bank which is still in existence. Now it has a slight history behind it. It actually was started as the Bank of Calcutta. Okay. Started as the Bank of Calcutta in the year 1806. This is the time when India was under British control. In the year 1809, it was then renamed as Bank of Bengal. Now, apart from this, we know that there were three presidency cities that were set up by the Britishers, that is Bombay, Madras, and Calcutta. Obviously, we have a bank set up by them in all the three presidency cities. So in Calcutta, here you have the Bank of Calcutta, which then becomes the Bank of Bengal. In the Bombay presidency, they have the Bank of Bombay. This was made in the year 1840. And in Madras, they have the Bank of Madras. So all three presidency cities, the Britishers have set up some banks. This is the Bank of Madras, which they started in the year 1843. Now, the Britishers finally merged all of these three banks. That is the Bank of Bengal, Bank of Bombay, and Bank of Madras. And they renamed it as the Imperial Bank of India. So they merged all these three together so that they could have the same functioning. Now this Imperial Bank of India became the SBI, or the State Bank of India, when India became independent. Okay. So 1955, the Imperial Bank of India was renamed as the State Bank of India. Now, all the functions that are currently carried out by the RBI, that is the Reserve Bank of India, were initially carried out by the SBI. RBI was established in the year 1935, but till then such functions that the RBI does was carried by the SBI. So this is one interesting fact when it comes to knowing about banks. So the SBI was originally a setup by the Britishers. Okay, fine. Okay, and one important fact: this nationalization of banks was an attempt by our PM, that is Indira Gandhi. So she was the one. RBI did not take place of SBI, Bomik. They both are very different. But we had the SBI. See, somebody has to function as someone who is, some bank has to function as, a bank which is controlling currency, which is controlling all the values, etc. So till then, nobody had this idea of RBI coming into place. So till the RBI was established by an act of the government, by an act of the constitution, which is Reserve Bank of India Act 1934. And then we have the RBI being set up in the year and being run from the year 1935. So though the Imperial Bank of India was renamed as SBI in the year 1955, much before that we had the RBI, that is the Reserve Bank of India. But before that, till the year 1935, making of currency, etc., everything was controlled by the SBI. That's it. That's all that we are trying to understand. And yes, nationalization of banks was an initiative of Indira Gandhi. Okay, next we are coming to our 20-point program. Okay, right over here, we have our 20-point program. Again, the 20-point program was introduced or announced by Indira Gandhi on 1st of July 1975. Okay, we wanted to become a developed nation very fast, and that is why we started with the 20-point program. There are only 5 main things that we need to know over here. One is land ceiling. What do you mean by the word ceiling when it comes to economy? Think of the room that you are sitting in. The ceiling is the maximum height to which you can climb. You cannot go above the ceiling. So this is the maximum height that you can reach. Similarly, we are applying the same concept to economics. Here by ceiling, we are referring mainly to the prices or the control in prices. That means that my price level, if this is 0 to 10, my price cannot go above 10. The maximum price or the maximum retail price, the MRP of any product, suppose of a product that I'm selling, and the government has fixed the ceiling at 10, I cannot have the price at 10.5 or 11. It has to be 10. So maximum can be 10 and minimum can be anything. But the price range has to be within 0 and 10. So that is what a ceiling means. So ceiling was put for the prices of land, which means that if somebody wants to buy land, there is a ceiling price which you cannot cross. So that land becomes affordable to anybody. Now people who want to do agriculture, who want to set up industries, all of them require land. So selling of land became very important, and so that nobody would be cheated, we introduced the ceiling on the prices of land. Equal division of wealth, minimum wages were introduced for workers, that you will get this much of minimum wages at least, which was important for survival and sustenance. Um, then we had national training schemes, because of which people could get trained in many skills, and then they could try for employment in different industries. Freeing bonded labor, it meant an end to slavery. End to slavery. So bonded labor and slavery are synonyms. So we wanted to end slavery. Prevention of tax evasion, economic crimes, and smuggling. There had to be an end to smuggling. Tax evasion means the rules became so strict that everybody had to pay taxes, otherwise they would be caught. The prices of the basic commodities or the basic necessities we wanted had to be regulated. There had to be improvements in the PDS, public distribution scheme. Um, that is why we had the targeted public distribution scheme launched, and also the RPDS, the revamped public distribution scheme, that was launched. We wanted improvement in the textile industries, um, housing, communication facilities, etc. All of this had to become better. So this was the 20-point program introduced by Indira Gandhi, which aimed at economic development. Now we go to the strike, the mill strike of workers in Bombay, which was very important. In Bombay, if you ever go through the area, that is Dadar, Parel, Baikala, Sivri, or the new freeway that has just been made, you will realize that there are a lot of mills, that are not working. They are just ruining. The building is in ruins. That area is in ruins. Uh, Okay, the Palladium Mall at Parel has been made from a mill which was originally a textile mill. You have the Raghuvanshi mills, etc. So all these mills were the prior textile, the cotton textile mills in Mumbai that were set up. Now there were a lot of mills in Dadar, Parel, Baikala, Prabhadevi also, Worli. This entire area together at that time in the 1950s was known as Girangaon, or the town of mills. The first textile mill was started in Mumbai on 11th of July 1851 by Mr. Kavasji Davar. Now what happened is in the 1980s we had a lot of people crowding to Mumbai in search of uh, work or to work in the textile industry. So we had a very huge pool of people coming into our city. Now what happened is around the 1980s many workers in the different industries were getting bonuses, their salaries were being increased. So these people in the textile industry, the workers in the textile industry, also started demanding for higher wages. They thought that we want to get bonus, and so they went on a strike. Again, at this time, going to strikes was very common in many industries, as they are, demands would be satisfied or demands would be partly satisfied due to a negotiation. The strike would end. But this mill strike, the mill worker strike, is a strike which technically is still not ended even in the year 2020. It's still going on. Not actually, but on paper, yes, there has been no end to this strike because there was no negotiation or no compromise. So now what happened is in the year 1981, on the occasion of Diwali, workers said that we want a 20% bonus. Now we had the Rashtriya Mill Mazdoor Sangh. This was, the Rashtriya Mill Mazdoor Sangh. Sorry, not over here. The Rashtriya Mill Mazdoor Sangh, which was the only legal trade union which was of workers overall in our city, which was allowed to negotiate with the government. They negotiated with the employers, both public and private. And finally, the RMMS agreed to 8 to 17% bonus, but the people were not happy with this. The workers were not happy, and so they approached Dr. Datta Samant. Now, this guy was also a legislator in the Congress and very famous personality in the city of Mumbai at that time. He was also a doctor by profession and treated all the workers in the factories and these textile mills particularly. And he supported them, and whenever there were their demands, he always supported them. And he was also politically very active, and he had very good connections. So the workers went to him and he accepted the leadership of the movement. Workers of 65 mills in Bombay went on strike, which made almost up to 2.5 lakh workers. So 2.5 lakh workers in our city went on a strike. Strike started on 18th of January 1982. And textiles were like the backbone of Mumbai at that time, the textile industry. There were a lot of mills. It was like, the Bombay city came to a stop. The CM of Maharashtra, etc., they all started to solve the issue, but it was to no use. Then we had a new chief minister, that is Baba Saheb Bhosle. He said that he will only talk with RMMS, that is Rashtriya Mill Mazdoor Sangh. He will not talk to anybody, and this angered Dr. Datta Samant, thinking that he was also politically very active. So in the beginning, many people, the workers received a lot of support. They supported each other. The workers supported each other in terms of food, in terms of funds, finance, etc. But slowly we realized that strike completed 6 months, koi bhi solution nahi aaya. The police started putting these striking people into jails, and the workers started with a jail bharo andolan. They resisted a lot, but to no use. Finally, in September 1982, 1.5 lakh workers marched to the Legislative Assembly of Maharashtra. Again, it did not help. The strike then completed 1 year, it completed 6 more months, nothing. There was no solution to this. Nobody was ready to negotiate properly. It was having no result. It offered no solutions. Because of this, all these people became jobless, they became unemployed. At this time, because they were the cotton mills, now cotton is a natural fiber. Okay. Cotton, we all know, is a natural fiber. But by this time, by the strike ended, so say somewhere from 1982 to 1984, artificial fabric like polyester was much cheaper. It could be manufactured in the factories with the help of machines, which did not require a lot of labor. So what happens is it was a one-time investment to make polyester. You brought land, तुमने machine ले लिया, land ले लिया, and finally it's done. You don't need workers over here, or you need only workers to manage the machines. So polyester became a very good business, and so because of that also the cotton industry was badly affected. And because of the strike in Mumbai, and because it brought no positive results, it brought no end to the strike, many of the mill owners shifted from Mumbai to Surat in Gujarat. Okay. Now, even today, whenever you talk about textile mills, the first city that would come up to your mind is Gujarat, Surat. And why do we say Surat now? Because now we know why our attention shifted from Mumbai to Surat, mainly because of this strike. Technically, there still has been no reason to this strike. Datta Samant was shot, he used to stay in Powai in Mumbai, and he was shot by people, obviously because he was involved in all these strikes and politically very influential. He had a lot of enemies. So Datta Samant was shot, which was also his death was very grieved by the workers because he really supported them well. Okay. Now, lastly, we come up to the new economic policy in the year 1991. We need to remember at this time our PM was PM Narasimha Rao, and at this time our finance minister was Dr. Manmohan Singh. These two guys together changed the face of the Indian economy. Three main things we need to understand over here: liberalization, privatization, and consequently all of this led to globalization. World Trade Organization, India became a member of World Trade Organization, which also changed everything a lot. So now when we were talking about that there was a break in the 5-year plans, we are going to know the reason what happened exactly right now. Now, the new economic policies means that we had made some fundamental matlab ekdam basic changes in our economic policies. Now, if you change the base, many things are obviously going to change. At this time in the 1900s or the 1990s, everybody was going global. A lot of MNCs, etc., were being set, and so India could not stay behind. Plus, we had reached a point of exhaustion. अब हम कहाँ से नया एग्रीकल्चर करें, हम कहाँ से नई इंडस्ट्रीज बनाएं, कैसे एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेट करें, कैसे पॉवर्टी कम करें. So that was a point of exhaustion that we reached, and so we came up with the policies of liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Now, what happened is, when PV Narasimha Rao came to power, economic growth rate had gone very bad. India was growing only by 1% economically. India had foreign exchange reserves only to last for imports for 1 week. मतलब हमारे पास एक week में just 7 days में जितना import आ सके, we only had money for that. And we had no money to pay off the loans. We did not know what to do. We sold all our gold reserves. Some of them we mortgaged. The VP Singh government before the Narasimha Rao government had made a liability of 10,000 crore rupees. It waived off. मतलब उसे सारे farmers की loans cancel कर लिए. And because of that, because the farmers did not repay the loans, our government suffered a huge loss of almost 10,000 crore rupees. Now, this was really difficult, this debt was really difficult to clear. Our gross domestic product was going down. We, in the year 1980 to 81, we had a foreign loan of 2,350 crore dollars. This in the next 10 years increased to 8,380 crore dollars. And 8,380 crore dollars we had to pay, and we had only 100 crore dollars. Can you imagine how bad the situation was? Now in this situation, मैं ये situation को better करूँ या मैं 5-year plan बनाऊँ? How can I make a 5-year plan? I don't have a 5-day plan, dude. So if I don't have a 5-day plan, a 5-year plan does not make sense. So because of this, there was a break in the 5-year plan. Okay. Now, we obviously had to correct this. Our PM could not have just said, कि चलेगा देखते 5 दिन में क्या होता है. He obviously could not have that attitude. So Dr. Manmohan Singh was appointed as the finance minister, and both of them worked together with policies which then boomed India's economy greatly. And still today, this has held us. This policy of new economic policy of 1991 has still held us together. Now, what were the remedies? What were the correct situations? What were the correct things that we did? At this point of time, we removed the restrictions on foreign investment. What do you mean by liberalization? Okay, let us do this one by one. When we became independent, the Indian government at that time had closed the Indian economy. Only a few imports of very essential commodities were involved. We wanted to export more. And we did not want MNCs, etc. to come into our country, because हमारे country की जो भी industries हैं, they are very new. So our own industries, indigenous industries, were not capable enough or strong enough to withstand this competition from the MNCs or foreign companies. That is why we had closed down our markets completely. With liberalization, it meant that we could have many MNCs and outside industries coming into our country. This could also mean that we could have more imports. This could also mean that our industries, indigenous industries, could also go global. So liberalization mainly is removing trade barriers. Okay. Removing trade barriers means I'm removing all the restrictions that I had on international trade. Next, we come to privatization. What we mean by privatization is that, again, immediately after independence, we had kept most of our industries under the public sector because we wanted many commodities to be affordable to everybody. But now the public sector started to have a lot of losses, and at this time, as per the NEP 1991, many public industries were sold to private industries. Now, in private industries, people have no restrictions on how much they want to invest, what prices they want to keep. But privatization meant the growth of private industries, which would actually lead to economic development. Now, this liberalization and privatization together actually led to globalization. Okay, globalization is when we are going global. We have many industries, like we have Infosys, we have TCS, which are now global companies. India also became a member of the World Trade Organization, which regulates trade all over the world. Though many people at that time felt that this is not a very good move, we had encouraged that India became a member of the WTO, so that we have more say in the international markets. Okay. Manmohan Singh also set up the SEBI, that is Securities and Exchange Board of India, where the National Stock Exchange could get computerized, so we could have work online because of the SEBI. So all these things together boosted our economy greatly, and we are still, enjoying the fruits of this new economic policy. It has gone really well. India became the member of the World Trade Organization in the year 1995. Okay. Now, India, apart from this, signed certain other agreements like the GATT, that is General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, the SAFTA, that is South Asian Preferential Trade Agreement. All of these are basically, economic treaties that ensure a better position, a better negotiation for us. So this is our chapter on economic development, where we studied or looked at 6 basic headings. Okay. First was mixed economy. By mixed economy, we meant that we have a combination of private, public, and the joint sector. 5-year plans and how they were important. Nationalization of banks, which became very important um, because we wanted the banks to develop as a good habit, and also we wanted India to have finance easily. The 20-point program, which encouraged privatization also to some sector. The mill workers strike, and finally the new economic policy. So these are the 6 things that together sum up the economic development of our country. When we are talking from a historical point of view, these were the 6 main events that transformed our economy. Okay. So I'm giving you just 2 minutes. If you have any doubts, put it on chat, and then we move on to the next chapter. Yes, Soham, you can get the notes of these chapters. The only thing is we need to be slightly patient so that we can get them. Any doubts related to the chapter? Yes, the 5-year plan, Soham, some of them were successful, some of them were partly successful. See, it becomes really difficult to understand success. Even if you have a goal and you achieve at least 70% of that, you can say, yes, it was quite successful. Many plans at times work really well because, let's say, many other factors are in favor with us. Sometimes everything goes against us. So that's the reason. All right, so now we are moving to the next chapter, chapter number 5, that is education. We obviously don't need to be told what education is. Just give me 1 minute, okay? I'll be back. All right, so let's start with education. Now, when we are talking about education with reference to history, we are just talking about how our education system has evolved. Okay, this is a chapter which mainly you just have to read and go through it. Okay. Now, why education was important and why all the provisions of education were important is mainly because we want the literacy rate to go up. We want our literacy rates to go up, and that is the reason we have concentrated so much on education and education policies. Now we have our education into primary, secondary, higher secondary, graduation, and then post graduation. This is how our education system goes right now. First, we are going to refer to primary education. Primary education earlier was meant from the ages of 6 to 14. This was the age group we are referring to when we talk about primary education. Now, to increase primary education or literacy rates, the government came up with a scheme which was known as Operation Blackboard. Now, Operation Blackboard was nothing but a scheme to increase the literacy levels. It meant that every school should have basic needs. It should have at least 2 classrooms, toilets, teachers. One of the teacher has to be a female. There should be maps. There should be blackboards, laboratory apparatus, etc. Now in 1994, because the scheme was successful, it was still extended, and it said that now there should be more classrooms, more teachers, 50% of teachers should be females. Another step taken was District Primary Education Program, DPEP, District Primary Education Program. It was initially started in 7 states. Okay, these states are Assam, Haryana, Karnataka, Kerala, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, and Madhya Pradesh. Again, this aimed to, increase the attendance, also have schools for physically handicapped, etc. And the third important step was the midday meal scheme, where food was provided to the students in the school itself, which could increase the literacy rate, or it could encourage more students to go to school. DPEP is District Primary Education Program. Now, apart from this, we have two people like Tarabai Modak and Anutai Wagh. Now, both these women are very important. They are mainly important because they worked for the education of Adivasis in the state of Maharashtra. So, education of Adivasi children, both of them played a very big role in this. After that, we come to secondary education. Okay. Now, our education minister after independence was Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. He wanted to bring about a change in university education. So earlier, our education pattern was 11 plus 4, which means you give your main board exam in the 11th standard and then in the 15th standard, after which it was or it could be 11 plus 1 plus 3. Okay. Now for this, you cannot just, cancel any scheme that is going on like that. You have to appoint certain commissions who would exactly look into the syllabus, the teaching style, and what are the things that could be changed. Now, when this commission was appointed, that is the University Education Commission, this commission was appointed and it said that we should split secondary into secondary and higher secondary. So secondary would be till your 10th standard and higher secondary would be 11th and 12th standard. But they found it very difficult to implement this program. And so then, for this purpose, we had a new commission being set up, which was the Kothari Commission. It suggested certain changes, and then it brought about this pattern, that is 10 plus 2 plus 3. Now this is the current pattern that we are following. You give your board exam in the 10th standard, then you give your board exam in the 12th standard, and then you go in for graduation, which you finish in your third year. Now here, when we are referring to 10 plus 2 plus 3, we are referring to degrees like BA, BCom, BMS, BSc, etc. Your engineering, etc. would, this 4 would be replaced, this 3 would be replaced by 4. But 10 plus 2 plus 3 refers to your basic graduation courses. So this is the thing that we are still following. Apart from this, some of the other suggestions made by the Kothari Commission was that mother tongue could also be included in education. Correspondence or education from open universities could also be done, so that people who have no time to go to college and attend school, they can also study. Now this 10 plus 2 plus 3 pattern was followed in Maharashtra from the year 1972. Okay. After that, we go to higher education. Now, again, the University Education Commission, the chairman of this was Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. He also said that, in the 5-year plans, we should also have one fixed amount for university education, so that people could study more. Many people could, get scholarships and study. And when the television came, countrywide classroom was started by Doordarshan, wherein many people could study in their house. Then we have the establishment of NCERT. You must be all familiar with this. National Council of Educational Research and Training, established in Delhi in September 1961. Okay. Its main objective was to implement educational schemes, to have proper educational schemes. NCRT also, played a major role in designing the school syllabus, that is a syllabus that you guys are studying. Okay, so it got a lot of support from the CBSE board for making curriculum and textbooks, that is Central Board of Secondary Education. When the NCRT was established, a lot of state councils were also established with SCERT as their name. In Maharashtra, it was established in 1984. Okay. Yeah, Atharva, we are just going to take 5 to 8 minutes to complete this. Okay, there's nothing much that we are going to do in this chapter. It's all very technical. Then satellite, from the time we have satellites, India made a first satellite, Eknath Chitnis was the scientist who played a very important role in it. Because of this, satellite education became very common. People started studying in this field as well. After this, we had the establishment of IGNOU, that is Indira Gandhi National Open University. Okay. Its main objective was to offer correspondence education, that is open universities, wherein you do not need to attend any institution or college or school, and you can educate yourself. It was named after Indira Gandhi. After that, we have many research institutes in science. Mainly it is CSIR, which is Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. It was established to promote scientific research in many fields. Okay, in the fields of physics, chemistry, food processing, mining, etc. Many things. Main achievements of CISR are that it has made the ink which is put on the voters' hands during elections. It has made medicines for TB, malaria. It has also used DNA fingerprinting in India, studied the Adivasis of the Andaman, etc. So CSIR is looking at a lot of things. In the field of mathematics, we have the National Institute for Research in Mathematical and Physical Sciences in Tamil Nadu, established in the year 1962. Computers, now in the year 1969, India made the first indigenous computer by the name of iit-jee. Okay. Now, America refused to give us a supercomputer, and so we made our own computer in Pune. It was made by Dr. Vijay Bhatkar, and we developed the first Param 8000 supercomputer. The BARC, a lot of research is done over here in fields of nuclear physics, life sciences, etc. Engineering, here we are talking about the establishment of IITs when it comes to engineering, IIMs when it comes to management. So a lot of IITs and IIMs were established, which have greatly taken up the standards of Indian learning when it comes to management and technology. Then we have the NID, that is National Institute of Design. This consists of industrial designing, product designing, visual designing, graphical communication, etc. In the field of medicine, we have the ICMR, that is Indian Council for Medical Research. Now we have 26 centers in different parts of the country. They are treating, finding medicines for things that are not curable. AIMS was also established, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, to further have more research in the field of medicine. Now all these colleges, that is IIT, IIM, NID, etc., they all offer undergraduate courses, postgraduate courses, etc. For cancer research, we have the Tata Memorial Center, doing endless research on cancer. The Advanced Center for Treatment, Research and Education in Cancer. This is a field of Tata Memorial, wherein a lot of research is being done on cancer. Apart from this, there are many agricultural universities in our country where they study the soil, where they study agriculture, how it is done, what should be the exact amount of fertilizer that you should use, what should be the way in which you should plant the seeds, which is of great help to the farmers. So these agricultural industries, agricultural universities are also set up in many parts of our countries. So now with this, we complete on education. Here, basically, you just have to read through the chapter. There is nothing much that you have to, concentrate on over here, but you should just know the name of different institutes that have been set up and what they do. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me now.